Good evening, all. It's 6 p.m. on a Thursday, and that can mean only one thing. It's lockdown live time. As usual, can you just let me know in the chat if you can hear me, you can see me, and everything looks and sounds okay? And then we'll go through and just do the usual good evenings and go through all the usual things we do to start off with the live stream. So, could you just let me know in the chat if everything looks and sounds okay? That would be absolutely awesome. As always, I hope you're having a good day, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Thank you very much, Carl. Good to see you. Glad you could make it. And also to Paul K. Thank you again for joining in. We'll do our hellos in a moment. Just wanted to quickly say, hope you're all doing well. Hope you're safe. Hope you're really looking forward to tonight's topic or topics. We're going to cover a few things today. Predominantly, we're going to talk about Elementor's recent changes. We're going to take a look at CrocodBlock's recent changes and a couple of updates with a few other things I want to go through. But before we do, let me just go through my usual thing, which is just to say good evening to all you wonderful people that are joining me tonight. So a couple of quick hellos, just to sort of say it's good to see you in. So I'm going to quickly scroll back up. Let's just have a look who we have in tonight. As always, Steve Pro, good to see you. Lillian, good to see you as well. Wuta, great to see you in. Charlie Bird, always a pleasure. Fabiron, hope I said that right. Good evening to you. Zaki, hope you're doing well. Paul Keating, I should say. Robert Moises, I'm assuming I hope I said that okay. And Srahinia, good to see you again. Good to see you. Diana, Brian, Richard, glad you could make it, young man. Hope the family's not too annoyed that you're hopping out of there to join in here. But hey, look, it's only every other Thursday, so they can't be that mad at you, can they? Armin, good to see you as well. And we've got Shaquille. Christopher, good to see you. Yanis, always a pleasure. No reaction, again, good to see you in tonight. John Hussey, Heinrich, SAA Consulting. Good afternoon, 12 p.m. Central UTC from Eureka Springs, Arkansas. Good to see our Arkansas brothers in tonight. Fatal Paradox, good to see you. Stratos, always a pleasure. Hope you're doing well tonight. TLC Online Channel, again, good evening to you from Southampton. Grant Turner, first time on you, looking forward to it. Thank you for taking the time out of your day, your evening, to join in. It's a pleasure to have you here. Raymond, hi all from the USA. Good evening to you. And we've got Shrizo Libera. I hope I said that. Christian, there we go. We'll just do that, is it? Hola from Mexico, and good evening to Mexico for you. Yes, I did, Moises. I hope I said it right. Richard, Elstech, good to see you in. Els, as always, it's a pleasure. Constantine, and Ripal. So I think I've covered most of who are in so far. So, like I say, hope you're doing well. If you enjoy what we do and you enjoy the live broadcast, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. It really does help out when it comes to YouTube. Paul Keating, another new t-shirt. It is a new t-shirt. There's a lot more new t-shirts coming, so keep an eye on that. Remote learning, hello to you. Okay, so what are we going to do? Hello, I am Maria. Good evening, Maria. Spenny, good to see you in as well. Okay, I did say it right. That's always good to know. Thank you very much, Moises. Okay, so what are we going to cover today? I don't want to sort of dwell on this one topic too much tonight because, I mean, I'm pretty sure that it's been covered to death. And I know a lot of you have already said how you feel about things, but let's just take a look at it because I think it is important for a lot of us what Elementor are doing. And we're going to take a couple of little sort of things that I want to sort of cover with that. And Malik, hello from Jordan. Hello, Jordan. I hope you're safe over there and doing well. Okay, so I'm just going to pull up my first slide just so we can see exactly what we're going to talk about. So Elementor Pro's new pricing, my thoughts on it and why I think they've done it. Now, this might not be how you feel about it, but this is the whole point of tonight, so you can tell me how you feel about it. I have no idea if anybody from Elementor is even going to be watching this. Who knows? But the decision's been made now anyway. Okay, so I'm pretty sure unless you've been living under a rock or you don't use Elementor, you can't help but have known they've just announced the big changes to the pricing plan, which basically means that the expert plan goes from being 1,000 licenses to 25 licenses. And then you've got two tiers above that. You've got the agency and the one I can never remember what's above that, which I believe is 100 and 1,000 licenses, respectively. Thankfully, this time they have given us notice. And this has kind of two implications. One, the pricing doesn't change for another month. So that means you can get in on the pricing like right now, and we'll talk about that a little later. You can also know that at this point in time, and whether this stays like this forevermore, I have no idea. But the pricing that you are currently paying, so if you were on an expert plan right now, you're paying either $99, $149, maybe $175 or $200, depending upon if you've got that renewal discount for when you actually came on board with that. You won't be losing that. This is something that's kind of caused a bit of confusion in the wording, that the sort of press release that was put out and those kinds of things. You're not losing that. If you have one of those plans, you retain those plans. And that includes the pricing, in other words, the renewal pricing. It includes the number of licenses you have. So this only really affects the expert plan. The two below that, it's 1 and 3 respectively, and that doesn't change. So you are keeping everything you have as long as you have a subscription in place and you don't let that lapse. And I've been reliably informed by 2 people over in Elementor that if something happens with regards to your continued license, and I'm talking like, let's just say there's a couple of days and you realize, oh, hang on, my license hasn't renewed. I'm not talking like 6 months down the line. They will honor that. So you probably need to reach out to their customer support and just let them know that for some reason your subscription lapsed a couple of days ago, payment wasn't taken for whatever reason, and can they rectify that and sort that out? And they should, from what I've been told, rectify that situation so you won't lose your current plan, including all the things that that has with it. Like I said, the expert plan with 1,000 licenses and whatever renewal fee you pay. So if you're worried about that, this is something that you can, at this point in time at least, rest assured, because we have no idea what may change in the future, and we can all speculate, but I'm not privy to anything that you are not sort of already know about this. So this is what I wanted to just sort of make sure, so we clear this up, so in case you have been a little bit stressed, worried, confused, or you just didn't know too much about it, hopefully this at least clears clears up any misunderstanding you may have had about what's happening, what will happen on the 9th of March, and how this affects you if you currently have an ongoing Elementor plan. If you're on one of the lower plans, the 1 or 3 licenses, and you've been looking at expert, now's the time to get on it, because once you go past March the 9th, you will no longer have access to that 1,000 license version of expert. You'll have to upgrade to the next levels to get that. The other thing that I've been reliably informed of, and I believe this was in their press release, is that if you want to go from expert as it is now and upgrade to one of the higher plans, the agency or what the other one is, you can do that, which I believe, don't quote me 100%, but I believe it's a 50% reduction on the cost. So in other words, if you went up to the $499 from the current expert, I believe you would pay $250 and $499 or $500 respectively. You go to the next one up again. If you want to do that, you can do that, and I believe you can sort of, I'm not sure if you can do it now or you'll have to wait. I'm pretty sure you'll have to wait until March, obviously, because these new plans are not actually out. But hopefully that kind of clears that up. Doing a conversation, like I say, I had with a couple of people over at Elementor. These are the questions that I put to them. There's various different things that they wanted my feedback on. So I gave them the feedback on it, on how I think people will react and how I think certain things will be affected moving forward. Anyway, that's what I wanted to sort of just kick things off with first of all. Now I can kind of gauge what you guys are thinking, what your feelings are with this, and then we'll take a look at some more questions with this, and then we'll move on to some other things. So I'm going to hop back over into the comment section. I'm just going to see what you guys are saying about all of this. So let's just have a little look what you guys are saying, because these comments are flashing up really, really quickly. Okay, so what do we have? Guillermo, good to see you in this evening as well. Great Croco videos again. Yep, there's several more. There's another one coming out, and I will show you a brief sort of screen capture of what you can kind of expect in the next tutorial that I'll be doing on my channel. That won't be a Croco Block, a sponsored video. It'll be one of my own videos, but along the same kinds of lines of what I've just released, just looking at it from a more designer point of view. Okay, Lewis88, greetings from Germany. Good evening to you. I hope you're well. Okay, so let's take a little look. Let's get a couple of comments up on here. So Moises, about how I feel about Elementor price increase. I feel like someone I loved is breaking up with me. Why do you feel like that? I mean, for the people that are currently subscribing to Elementor, that are currently paying for Elementor, nothing is changing. And I think this is the thing that we need to remember, that at this point in time, there's no change to us. We don't lose anything. We continue to have the same pricing, the same renewal pricing, the same quantity of licenses, so we don't get affected. Obviously, if you go beyond 1,000 licenses, if you're at that point and you're selling websites, you should be in a position to be able to afford another 25 or 100 or 1,000, whatever kind of plan you want to move up to. So I think, as has been said a lot of the time, is if you're not in that position, then you're doing something kind of wrong in your business. So I wouldn't worry if you're already benefiting from this. You're not going to lose anything. Nothing is going to change for you. You retain everything you currently have for the price you currently pay. That's, like I say, that's hopefully been made very, very clear. Okay, Carl, yeah, free personal plus an expert. Yeah, venture capital and the greed eats brains. Yeah. Okay. What about it, Carl? Existing customers' plans will be grandfathered in, providing you keep your existing subscription live. Any issues when your new pricing goes live, you should contact their customer support. Yeah, exactly. No, Mariana, I have expert plan in the renewal. I will have only 25 sites or 1,000. You'll have 1,000. It won't change. What you currently have is what you will keep, providing you have a current active subscription. If that lapses or you purchase outside of that, you buy another expert plan, you wouldn't then have another 1,000. You would have 25 on top of your existing running 1,000. So I hope that makes sense. Hope that clears that any confusion you may have. Richard, originally had unlimited license, but they cut it down to 1,000 site package last time when the tiers changed. You know how I felt about that situation. That's one of the reasons why a couple of people from Elementor wanted to talk to me the other day with regards to what they were doing with this. Not that I had any sway whatsoever on changing their minds or anything like that. They just wanted to run a couple of things past me and gauge my feedback. So I gave them my honest opinion because they know I will be honest about what I think about any decisions they make and how I think myself and how you and how people that are currently using this, how they would be affected. And this is why I kind of made sure that there was questions about renewals, questions about if something happens with your payment and you sort of miss a few days through something happening, like, your payment details disappear, your card expires or something like that, that they have given me their word. And like I say, you can take that for what it's worth. I have no sway over them whatsoever. That there will be a kind of grace period that if something goes wrong and you kind of lose that license for where it is, you can contact them and they will then sort that out. They'll take a look at the details. Like I say, I can only give you the information that I've been handed back to me when I've asked these questions, because I know a lot of people were kind of affected by this in the past. I didn't want people to be affected by it again moving forward, but it happens. So hopefully that explains things. And Richard, I know what you mean about going from unlimited to 1,000. I was kind of bummed by the whole situation. I didn't agree with the way they handled it, which is one of the reasons why I'm kind of glad that they've handled this one by giving that 1 month where you can grab a license right now at this price, lock in your renewal, lock in what you have, and only new people that come on board or people that need another batch of licenses afterwards will be affected after March the 9th. So I'm glad they did that. They obviously took on board probably not what I said, but the general sentiment that people had online when they did this the last time with the 1,000 licenses. So like I say, for me, it was more a case I didn't like the way it was handled, because I can't imagine me ever coming close to having 1,000 active licenses to worry about that limit. But like I say, these things erode trust, and I can understand why people would be skeptical about the renewal prices based upon the way that was handled in the past. So I think they've listened to what we said. I think they've listened and taken on board what the general feedback from people was and how they weren't happy about that. And at least this time, so giving them credit, they have gone about it in a much more transparent way, and at least given that period where you can still lock in that price and you will retain the pricing and all the things you have with that from now on. Okay, so hopefully that's answered a couple of those questions. Right, what else do we have? Anthony, good to see you in this evening. Hope you're doing well. Rocky, thank you very much. Nice to hear you're a big fan. That's absolutely awesome to hear. Mariana, good. I'm glad that's actually helped you out. Okay, let's have a little look. Let's talk about this premium support. Right, there's two things to sort of unpack here. There's premium support and there's VIP support. Now, up until the expert plan, you have access to the premium support, which is the same support you've always had access to. I know there's been a lot of comments on forums, or on the Facebook group, excuse me, about the effectiveness of this support, and a lot of sort of complaints. So I can understand people's frustrations with that side of things. Again, it's one of those things, in my conversation with some of the people over at Elementor, they have invested money into getting more support staff on, and various other things and various other systems to put into place. I gave them a couple of ideas that I thought on ways to handle the difference between someone that pays for a license for Elementor versus someone that's a free Elementor user, both of which could have a need for technical support. And for me personally, I've said the sort of same kind of thing, because a lot of software companies do this, is if you have the free version of the product, you have forum or Facebook group support, in other words, community support. If you want actual support from the company, you can pay on an ad hoc basis, or you can take out sort of credits, and you can buy credits at a reduced rate, which means you get access to the proper technical support. That way you don't get inundated with free users hogging technical support and not getting, and when you're a paid user, you have to kind of form an orderly queue behind them. That to me is not the right way of doing it. But they've done it their own way. They've got their own systems in place, so they're looking at different ways at implementing different kinds of support. The VIP support, which is what you get with the two new higher level plans, is you get support from a different team to the premium support. So this is a completely different team, not the same people. You're supposed to get access to this in 30 minutes. I believe they're also... No, I'm talking rubbish, and I'm not going to say that. That's wrong. So yeah, you're supposed to get technical support within 30 minutes. You can have, I believe, on the $4.99 plan, whatever that's kind of called, you can have, the ice cream truck decided to turn up at -1 degrees and park outside, so excuse that. Yeah, so you get access to VIP support, and on the lower plan, the $4.99 plan, I think it's either 3 or 5 members of your team can be nominated as points of contact that can also contact technical support. And on the $9.99 plan, the new top tier agency plan, that's 10 people inside your company that can have access to that VIP support. So you can nominate different people inside your company to have access to that, and then they get access to that VIP support. Until VIP support comes online and people start using it with the new tiers that are coming out, we have no idea how effective this is going to be or how realistic it's going to be moving forward. So, excuse me, we'll have to wait and see how this pans out. But we know that when it comes to the Facebook group and other Facebook groups, the non-official ones, people will be very vocal about how good this is, especially when they're paying $4.99 or $9.99 for their licenses. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. Okay. Yeah, okay. So, Constantine, I can confirm my car was in the middle of change process. An ePro renewal was missed for $99, and after 2 weeks, Elementor still let me continue my subscription for the same price. Good to hear that we've got people like yourself that have experienced that, and you can vouch for the fact that they've done it. I know there's a couple of other people who have said the same thing. It might take you a little bit of time to get through to their support. I have no idea how good it's going to be. I've been in a position where I've never had to use it, thankfully, so I can't comment on whether it's good or bad, and even whether I get the same experience that someone that doesn't have a public profile like I do. Not that I'm saying I'm anyone important, but where I can talk about it and we can have these kind of discussions with potentially tens of thousands of people. I might be treated differently based upon that, so I still wouldn't want to sort of say whether the support was good or bad, because my experience may be different to someone else's. So I've never had to use it, so I can only take on board what I see and what I read and the mixed kind of comments that come back on that. Okay, let's have a little look. What else do we have? There's a lot of comments, so I'm going to just quickly go through these, and then we're going to go and take a look at some of the other things that I want to sort of talk about tonight. Okay. Up to how much the price will be increased. Orion King, right. the prices currently are, I believe, is it $29, $49, $199? And that's going to stay the same pricing wise, but the current expert plan, which is $199, which has currently 1,000 licenses, will drop to 25 licenses from March the 9th. Then you've got, there's another plan which I can't think what it's called. I think that's 100 licenses, and that's $499. And then you've got the agency plan, which is 1,000 licenses for $999. There's also worth bearing in mind that there are no renewal discounts. So if you were paying $199, $499, $999, after 12 months, that will still be $199, $499, and $999 to renew. Just so you know, there is no renewal fee. That's my understanding right now. If I'm wrong, I do apologize, but that's my understanding, is that there is no renewal discount like you used to have. That was got rid of probably maybe a year, 18 months ago, maybe longer than that. Okay. Mariana, but just to be clear, in the expert plan, the renewal will be $199 for 1,000 sites. As long as you lock that price down, either you have a running subscription or you purchase a new subscription prior to March the 9th, you lock it in at $199 for 1,000 sites currently. Whether that changes in the future, none of us can know. Only people inside Elementor will have any idea about that. At this point in time, there's no plans for that to change. So, just bear that in mind. We have no idea. Okay, so let's have a little look. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to quickly come back to some of these other ones a little later. Fatjay, good to see you in. Hope you're doing well. Okay, so let's have a little look. Scroll down. Well, lots of comments. Okay, so the next thing that I want to talk about is going to be how it does and doesn't affect you now and in the future. We've kind of covered that, talking about things kind of right now. Just a quick recap on that. Right now, it doesn't affect you at all. As long as you lock it in by March the 9th, no changes to the current plan will have any effect on you at all. After March the 9th, you will no longer have 1,000 sites on the expert plan. If you have the 1 site or the 3 sites, there's still no changes at all there. So you will lock it in prior to the 9th of March. After that, it will be the new pricing structure and the new license structure that goes with it, i.e. 25 licenses instead of 1,000. So that's how it affects you now and so on. So we've kind of done that, so I don't want to sort of rehash the same thing or go over the same content again. So why are so many people annoyed by the changes? And again, this is just my take on it. Nothing more than my take on it. And I'll get your take on this afterwards. So bear that question in mind. Why are so many people annoyed by the changes? Hold that question in place. And if you've got a comment on that, please do put it into the chat section, because I'll come back and we'll take a look at those after I finish this bit. But I think the reason so many people are annoyed, I think there are a couple of reasons. One, the whole situation with the 1,000 licenses from Unlimited. There's number one. A lot of people are still sore about that. Number two, people are not finding that Elementor are necessarily listening to the community in the way that they would like. Take that for what it's worth, whether that's to do with pricing, whether that's to do with support, whether that's to do with technical requests, or any of those other things that kind of go with it. Take it for what it's worth. And I think the other thing is, with Elementor 3 and the whole issues that kind of rolled out there, and people, if you spend any time on the Facebook group, you can't have helped but notice there were a lot of people, especially people that are running businesses based around building websites with Elementor. They were losing money, and this erodes trust. And when you do that, that's very hard to earn it back. So I think there's been lots of different reasons why. Plus, on top of that, we're in the middle of a health scare the world over. Money for a lot of people, especially if you're a freelancer, solopreneur, and small agency, small business, money right now, depending upon where you are in the world, could be something that is incredibly tight and you are trying to hold on to your purse strings. There's the fear, because that trust has been eroded, that are they going to sort of do this now, and then in a couple of months' time, are we going to see, well, okay, it's no longer going to be 25 licenses, it's going to be 10 licenses, and there's going to be other changes in there, and different pricing structures, and all those kinds of things. So this kind of makes people feel dubious about how much they can trust the company and the people behind it, and how they're going to look after them moving forward. And all these things are, to a large extent, totally justified, because at the end of the day, people did lose money. People did have sites fall apart and crash on them. People have experienced lots of problems. People were pissed about the unlimited to 1,000 licenses. So many different things. But we do have to bear in mind that as long as they kind of learn from these mistakes, and at least we're seeing some changes here, like I say, giving the 1 month grace period with the pricing, keeping the current pricing structure, all those things, at least they are positive steps in the right direction to gain that trust that people have lost in them. And you can't help but notice with 3.0's release, and to some extent, a smaller extent, some people had lots of problems with like 3.1. That it takes time to get trust back. You really got to earn that trust back, and people do vote with their feet. And I think you can definitely see this by the fact that so many people are saying, right, this is time, I'm going to Oxygen, I'm going to Oxygen, I'm going to Oxygen. Grass isn't always greener on the other side. This isn't specifically about Oxygen, about any platform, but the grass is not always greener. And we talk about bloat. Just bear in mind that if you look at where Elementor was, like in, let's just say version 1, to where it is now, version 3.1, and all the extra features that have been added into it, whether you agree and you like all those extra features, it's a debate in its own right. But it's by its very nature, the way that it's been built, it's going to introduce more code. It's going to introduce more reliances. Those things are going to make everything just bigger, slower, bigger file sizes, more files to load, all those kinds of things. That's potentially going to happen to other platforms. The more features Brizy brings in, the more potential for bloat. The more features Oxygen brings in, the more potential for bloat. Nothing in this world, when it comes to building websites and sort of page builders and theme builders and whatever you want to call it, site builders, whatever terminology you want to use, the more features that are introduced, the more potential for bloat, unless they're built in a modular fashion where you can enable and disable. And that doesn't mean just disable the feature, it means disable all the code and the reliances that are part of that feature, therefore reducing the amount of information that needs to be loaded into your browser. That's the only way that I know of, and I could be wrong, that you're going to get streamlined, quicker loading, faster, leaner page builders, site builders, whatever you want to call it. And I say, that for me is my take on it. You've only got to look back at any page builder where it started to where it is now, if it's still around, and see how bloat has creeped in. Divi's another example. So many people complain about Divi being so bloated. Well, why? Because there's constantly new features being added to it. If you don't build things in a modular fashion, generally that means you're going to end up with more bloat and more reliance upon extra libraries and those kinds of things. So just bear that in mind, that when you're thinking I'm going to jump from product X to product Y, it might be better now, but when you put all your eggs in that basket, in the same way a lot of people have done with a platform like Elementor, as that grows, as more people come on board, as more demands are made of that product to have more things added to it to cater for more needs, inherently the bloat is going to creep in. Just bear that in mind as you kind of look for alternatives and realize that everything has a life cycle before something either happens to the product, the business, the price, or just general uptake of it. These are all the life cycle of any kind of theme, page builder, platform, all kinds of things. It's just nature of the beast. So let me just go and take a look now and see what you guys are saying, and I'll come back and I'll answer a few of these comments, and we'll have this conversation going on. Okay, so let's have a little look. Lydian, I'm going to pull your comment up here. And when you're annoyed about all the complaints and ungentle posts of the last 2 days, if they have the feeling they make a bad deal, they can leave and find better ones. The other page builders. Exactly. I mean, if you're not happy with the way that any platform is shaping up. And like I said, whether that's technology-wise, whether that's price-wise, support-wise, feature-wise, whatever, you can vote with your feet. You can move to something else. I know the problem we have is if you're doing this with one or two sites, it's not such a problem to move. If you build a business around it, then things are different, because you either have to go back to all your client sites and then start again and transition them over to your new system, or you let those client sites run. And if you are using a maintenance plan to manage the licenses for all those sites, you mean you've got to keep up the license that you pay for that site, for that site builder, for the theme, whatever it is, kind of thing. So this is where things get more difficult as you have more clients on a particular platform. And it's why it's dangerous to have all of your eggs in that basket. Yeah. So, but you can vote with your feet. You can always walk away. You don't have to stay there. That's the thing. Let's have a look. Richard G. This is also why there are more people turn to the nulled market. I've never agreed with it, especially when using client sites, because it's pretty risky. But all things considered, I mean, I would never advocate using nulled software for any reason. I know there's the whole GPL get out clause, because WordPress, by its very nature and its architecture, is all meant to be about GPL, which, for anybody that doesn't know, it basically means that the code is meant to be open source, so anybody can take that code, they can amend it, and they can do what they want with it. So it becomes like an open network of people using, different pieces of code, different tools and things like that. The problem comes in when you do that, you kind of create a vicious circle. If, let's just say, a big chunk of people said, I still want to use Elementor, but I'm going to go down the null route. I'm going to go down and just buy in GPL licenses and not worry about it. The problem with that is it means that then there's less money going to the pocket of the developer, which can either mean that they put the prices up for everybody else, and that becomes that vicious circle, or they support, sort of like they just don't have the money to be able to support people, or they fold because they just can't afford to run a business when a big chunk of their market is using other ways of getting access to that. Plus the fact then that when you use things like null software, you open yourself up to malware, backdoor access to sites, so many different things. So personally, I've never used any kind of GPL software, used through those things like different platforms that allow you to do this. I'm not going to name any. I've thought about it in the past because, as you can appreciate, when you're creating content using sometimes very expensive plugins, it's expensive to try to be able to do that, to create content that you have no idea whether people even watch it. So it is quite an attractive proposition to pay something like, I don't know, say $10 for, I don't know, like a forms plugin that would normally cost you $200 to test it if you like it. But I just think I would rather put the money into the developers' pockets. And I don't know, I just don't agree. I just don't feel comfortable. I wouldn't feel comfortable doing it. So I would personally recommend staying away from those kinds of things, just for the fact that there's a lot of downsides that don't necessarily outweigh the upside you might think based upon the price. And in fact, you get no technical support, no updates, unless you take out a subscription with one of these sites, these GPL-based sites. And that way you manage those things, your updates and so on, through there. Anyway, let's have a little look. WP Fella. Elementor did the smart thing, built the right product, got people hooked on it, and now want to reap the rewards. I'm stuck with Elementor add-ons, lifetime licenses worth over 2K, Croco, etc. Yeah, you've got to look at it in one or two ways. You can be annoyed, or you can think, well, what they're doing is they're securing the future of the company and the product by changing the pricing structure and going after higher tickets, agencies, and things where they're going to be making good money. So I can understand, like I say, why some people are a little annoyed, but the reality of it is it shouldn't affect any of us that are currently using it and making money from it. And excuse me, in the future, if you're charging money for your services and part of that service is Elementor, you should be factoring the cost of that into the service you're providing. I know that's not necessarily that easy sometimes because different markets have different pricing, the amount of money you can charge, the amount of money that people will pay, just the general sort of state of the economy in particular countries is not always that strong. So I know it's never a black and white situation, but we do kind of have to look at the whole and not necessarily focus on specifics. Yeah, anyway. Richard, what do we got? I've invested heavily into Elementor and compatible plugins, but I've also dabbled with Divi. I also have Brizzy, but I haven't tried that yet. You know my feelings with regards to the direction of the channel this year and how I want to take a look at sometimes non-WordPress based products as well as non-Elementor based products. So there's various different things that I want to look at, and I think I didn't know anything about this, but it seems like it's a good idea to maybe look at some of these other things just because of what's currently going on and how people are getting a little bit annoyed with this situation. So you can expect to see other things which maybe will help open your eyes to alternative platforms that are out there, because we have to remember that just because Elementor is a great tool, it's not always the right tool for a particular job. So when you know there's more tools out there that can do more things and you have a sort of broader, sort of a bigger picture of what tools are available, you can identify what would work better in a given situation. So maybe Elementor wouldn't be the right tool for a particular job. Maybe product X would be a better sort of product Y, services, sort of SaaS products, software as services. Lots of different ways of looking at things. Like I say, just bear in mind there's more to life and business than just one product. Okay. Christopher, maybe people using null is one of the reasons why they increased the prices in the first place. From my conversation, that wasn't one of the biggest things, because I think they addressed a big part of that when they dropped from unlimited licenses to, actually, no, I'm talking rubbish now, because we're talking nulled copies. Maybe. But from the conversation that I had, that wasn't the thinking behind it. I think it's more to look at broadening their market, because I mean, I would question sometimes how many people with, for example, the expert license with 1,000 potential licenses on there, how many people would even get close to that kind of number? We just bought it because for $199 with that kind of figure on it, it seems like a good deal, which it was. I mean, that's another question. Let me just throw that back out to you guys. If you use Elementor and you run a business building websites, and that's kind of one of your key builders, with regards to Elementor, how many sites do you currently have with active Elementor licenses that are part of your expert plan? Are we talking like some people who've got like 10, 15, 20? Or do some of you have hundreds? At which point I can understand why people would be a little bit annoyed. Whereas under 25, for most people, wouldn't really matter too much. So let me know how many Elementor-based sites with Elementor Pro you currently manage with licenses that are tied to your expert plan. I would love to know that. Okay. See, now this is one thing. It also affects those who sell spare licenses. I don't agree with selling spare licenses, because at the end of the day, the license is associated with you, with your account, and selling licenses, I know we could sort of liken it to say, well, I built a site for a client and they've got a license of mine, but that's because you sold them a service. I don't really like the whole sort of concept of selling licenses because I have 1,000 available to me. Legally, I don't know whether that even fits into what Elementor have in their terms and conditions, or what you kind of sign up to, or how that affects GPL and those kinds of things. For me, like I say, from a moral point of view, I don't really like that. Same as I don't really like nulled things. I think it just kills ingenuity, and means that people that actually pay for products end up getting screwed over because they're paying the premium for the people that are selling nulled GPL based versions. Anyway, Stratos, I know you're a bit of an oxygen man, and I knew you would comment when I mentioned this. Will not bloat the code. With 3.7, they're bringing in the composite elements. They're basically a code block with HTML, CSS, and PHP added for you to edit. And this is exactly what I was talking about a couple of weeks back, and I've talked about it a few times when it comes to the way I would have loved to have seen Elementor be built. And I'm not going to go over it in sort of detail again, but basically what I said for probably the last 2 years or so is Elementor, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, should have built a base product that has the core things you need to be able to use it, and then use their own API to allow them to bolt on extra widget packs, should we say, or just extra widgets. And inside there, you could enable or disable what you did or didn't want. So for example, if you want to have dynamic options, you could download, and it's all part of your license, and you could download, install that as a plugin and enable it. And then Elementor Pro and Elementor Dynamic, for example, would work together, and you wouldn't have all the bloat of the things that you have no interest in. So if Oxygen are going down that route, which for me, and I say not from a technical point of view, they're much smarter than I am, I would say that is by far the best way of being able to build a platform that allows for growth without bloat. So like I say, starters, if you know that that's the way they're going with 3.7 and beyond, that's great to hear. And I think more page builder companies that want to expand the tools that they offer as part of their plugin should consider doing a similar thing, because it means that you don't end up with, I mean, good God, how many widgets are there in Elementor? Let's just say there's 90 in Elementor Pro, or 60, for example. On average, how many do you use? Probably no more than 15 or 20. So wouldn't it be nice if you could just disable all the other stuff you don't use and all the code that's associated with it is gone? Wouldn't that be lovely? Okay, what else do we have? Okay. Anna, I'm hoping that Crockablock will eventually include Oxygen because I'm using CBT ACF more and more these days. This is something that I'm hopeful that they'll do as well. I don't know if you saw my video a couple of weeks back where I took Jet Engine for a quick test drive to see if it would work with Oxygen, and found that it did. So it means at least there's some synergy between the two products. Whether everything worked, it was beyond me to be able to test everything. I just literally wanted to take it for a quick spin and see if it would actually even find the content created with Jet Engine, and it did. So that's a good sign. And speaking to, I think it was the CEO, I can never get it right because I got pretty much 10 different contacts in Crockablock that I speak to, and they're all different positions in the company. But speaking to them a couple of weeks back, after I done that little test, they did kind of hint at the fact that they are looking at Oxygen. So my fingers are crossed that they do look at Oxygen in more detail. And as much as I'm not the biggest fan of Gutenberg, I'm hoping they expand what that you can do with that as well, because I want to remove reliance upon one single tool. You know, if we can use ACF functionality in Gutenberg blocks, or we can use sort of Crockablock, more Crockablock kind of things, because we can already use ACF to a certain extent. If Crockablock can integrate more into Gutenberg, that for me is a great thing. And the same goes when it comes to working. I'd like to see it working with all the page builders like Brizy, Beaver Builder, Elementor, Gutenberg, as well as Oxygen. That for me would be the perfect scenario. But whether that's viable, I don't know. So fingers crossed that that will happen. But Anna, at least the basics are there at this point in time, and they are actually talking to each other, which is a good thing when it comes to those different technologies. Is there anyone out there who's reached 1,000 active installs in Elementor Pro? Exactly, that's exactly what I was just asking. So I don't know. I'd love to know if anybody actually has. So if anybody has reached that, let me know. Comment. Okay, let's have a little look. What else do we have? Okay, so WP Fellow again. I'm happy to pay more if they can make it the best WordPress page builder with all the add-ons and features inbuilt. See, that's a difficult one because, again, when all the features are inbuilt, it just introduces even more bloat. So I can only see that there's only so much you can realistically do when everything is lumped into one page builder. If nothing is modular, if nothing can be taken off when it's not needed, it's just going to increase the size. Unless they can find a smart way of only loading things that are actually being used at any given time, which fingers crossed, these are things that they can hopefully look into. Hopefully that will be a case and they will be able to streamline things, but I think it can only go so far. Okay, now before I do any more, I just want to quickly say, excuse me, these live streams are now actually being sponsored, which is a great thing. So tonight's sponsor is dynamic content for Elementor. So if you don't use dynamic content for Elementor, or you've never looked into it, if you do anything when it comes to dynamic content, this is one of those plugins that opens up a huge amount of possibilities way beyond what Elementor out of the box can do. So if you want to check it out, you can jump over to dynamic.000. You can use Lockdown Live as a promo code and grab yourself a 10% discount exclusive to the channel. So a big thank you to Dynamic Content for Elementor for sponsoring this week's live stream. And we're going to get back onto things. Okay, so now we've done the sponsors. Let's have a little look. Jamie. Personally, I can't wait till Gutenberg or similar integrated tool is suitable replacement for all the page builders. I think it's a long way off. I really do think it's a long way off. We have a reliance now. If you want to use Gutenberg and you want to do anything above and beyond a basic blog kind of post or a really basic layout, you have to start looking at third-party blocks, like Stackable, like Cadence blocks, those kinds of things, which are great. They are, and they're sort of like really filling that gap. But when you start to add more and more of those in, we're kind of getting back into that territory of, well, to make Gutenberg usable, I've got 5 different plugins installed in it, which is the same argument then as saying like, well, if I put Elementor, let's just say free version on there, I need to now install 5 other plugins to give me, you know, the ability to do, I don't know, galleries, to do post layouts and those kinds of things. So we kind of become self-defeating. I mean, Gutenberg is just something that I just think was a really badly thought out idea that is having to be patched to make it usable by so many third parties that I don't know. I don't like the whole Gutenberg model. I just think it was being built and hammered into WordPress just because they felt like they had to compete with Squarespace, Wix, those kinds of things. And I think it's a different market. I think they should have stuck to what they bloody do well. And if they wanted to introduce that kind of thing, keep that for WordPress.com, where it's a hosted solution where that makes more sense. Forcing that on people when it becomes, you know, when they get rid of, you know, sort of like the classic editor, I don't know. I'm not a big fan. Not a big fan. Okay, let's have a little look. Okay, what else do we have? Lots and lots of comments. So thank you very much for commenting tonight. Good evening, Michael M. Good to see you in, as always. Okay. What do you have got to say, young man? Have to watch the rerun, sadly. That's okay, no problem at all. You're in here now with us. The problem is that Elementor could be really amazing, but so many bugs keep just unfixed. Love, disappointment relationship for me. Wished Elementor was amazing. Again, I think that's something that this is where the trust erosion has kind of come in with the updates and things like that, where they're big updates and they can break things. And I know a lot of these problems that come about are not specific to Elementor, because you've got a whole ecosystem around it and people use lots and lots of plugins around Elementor itself. So you can understand there's the potential for problems, but that doesn't change the fact that when something goes wrong, it generally causes your site to go a little bit haywire. Maybe Elementor won't open up so you can use it. A million and one different things that can happen. You can't help but focus on Elementor being the problem, because that's generally where you see the issue arise, is that something doesn't work the way you expect it to when you do it inside Elementor, and then you look at the front end and things are all over the place. We naturally fall on that. And I'm not trying to defend anybody. I've done it. I've done the same thing, which is I get peed off because something didn't work the way it wants to. It's like, Elementor's, that's the bloody fault. It's that. So I feel your pain. I've lived the dream. Okay. So here, build 1 or 2 projects and you will get the amount of the most expensive plan. Everything else is your income. This is my point. Like I say, I think if you are running a business and you're not being able to cover the costs, then you need to look at the pricing, what you're doing, what you're offering, and things like that. Because the fundamental rule of a business is you buy things in to make money and sell them on. Whether you buy a virtual product and you build something like a website and you sell that end product to a client, and that includes Elementor, it's still part of business. It's still running costs, business running costs. But on the flip side, I can also understand why people would be a little bit annoyed if they kind of, you know, you suddenly have a limitation. Although at $200 for 100 sites, you should still be making more than enough money to get another 200 site license, because you don't really save any money. The only thing you get out of it is the VIP support. So yeah. Okay. Let's have a little look. What else we have? Does Crockablock work with Gutenberg, Doug? Yes, there's certain aspects of it do. I haven't checked it out in too much detail, and I did a video probably a couple of months back on using Crockablock with Elementor. So if you want to check that out, have a little look on the channel and do a search for, sorry, not with Elementor, sorry, with Gutenberg. Do a search for Gutenberg on there and you should find the video come up. But yes, you can do things like you can create your listings. You can then use those listings inside your Gutenberg pages. There's a lot of things you can do with it, but it's not as fully featured as obviously what you're going to get when you're using it with a tool like Elementor. But again, hopefully Crockablock will expand the support for Gutenberg, and then we have less reliance upon a tool like Elementor to be able to build dynamic sites, which is a good thing because diversity is always a good option. Okay. Yeah, Paul. Maybe this highlights that a lot of web designers are not charging enough for their work. It is to a certain extent, but also I think the market in regards to, let's just say, SME, small to medium businesses, it's been driven down by the bedroom designer, by the accessibility, by the ability to use, sadly, tools like Elementor and WordPress, because you can build a great looking site with Elementor and WordPress using predefined blocks and so on and charge money for it. You know, so it's kind of to a certain extent gone from it being a highly skilled profession to a de-skilled profession where unless you've got a reputation and you're dealing with higher ticket clients, the difficulty is you could be competing with someone that's going to say they'll do it out of the university dorm for 200 quid. And then you say, well, that thing, same site with me would be £1,000. You know, unfortunately, people will go with the price. They won't necessarily go with the skills, the years of knowledge, the understanding, the ongoing support, the help, all those kinds of things that you bring to the table. Some people are just driven by price. Okay, let's have a little look. Ted Olson, I have 15. Wouter, I've got 40 or 50. Fat J, we've got 20. Jamie, you rich bugger, with 87. And we've got Richard G with 75. And Paul K with less than 100 sites. So this is kind of what I'm saying. It's like, I can imagine for the biggest proportion of people are not going to reach that 100 site license, let alone 1,000 site license. I mean, that's when you're making some serious money. Even if you sell it $200 a pop, you can be making serious money with 1,000 licenses on the toe. Okay, Christopher Gatt, you have 98 in total. Again, you rich bugger, you. Yeah. So if it stays at 199, then happy days, like you say. If you consider the residual, I don't know what you charge the clients, whether you sort of say, well, they have a maintenance plan, and part of that maintenance plan is the ongoing license, and you charge them monthly, quarterly, annually, whatever. But you're still making money back if you're using any kind of maintenance plan, or you're just putting a little amount of money on top of the license price. You're still making money, and that's still business. You know, how you want to set it up is up to you, but you still should be making money out of this ongoing license thing. It shouldn't be something that you do once and then you keep on paying for their license forevermore. Okay, so yeah, I mean, it's good to see. I mean, most people are sub 100. I think everybody is sub 100 at the moment. So 1,000 sites still gives you a huge amount of headroom to be able to expand your business and still keep on making good money. Okay, so let's just quickly go for my last slide-ish. How to avoid the price increase and change to licenses. Okay, so we've just discussed most of the sort of thing I want to sort of talk about the pricing and all that kind of stuff. Is how can you avoid this price increase? Well, there's one simple way. You can grab yourself your license, start your subscription before the 9th of March. If you do that, you lock in the price in. And if you'd like to support the channel, you can also do this by going to wptuts.co.uk/Elementor. Costs you no more money, but you do give a small percentage back to me to help me create more content. Sales pitch out the way. No, so you can very easily lock the pricing in as it is now. There's no renewal discount, so the $199 for 1,000 licenses is what you're going to pay next year and the year after the year after. That isn't going to change. You're not going to get a discount like early adopters did. But that's the easiest thing to do, is if you want to lock that pricing in, you don't want to get caught out later on down the line, my advice would be grab the expert license now and you've then got 1,000 licenses you can play with, and you should be making good money off that. Licenses prior to that, the 1 and the 3, you won't be affected in the slightest whether you take it out now or you take it out in the future. There's no real benefit to you either way. So that's that side of things covered. So hopefully that will kind of give you an insight into how you can best go about saving yourself money long term by grabbing it before the 9th. Okay, so what else do we have comment-wise? I'm going to jump down to the bottom a minute to see what the latest ones are, and then we'll take a little look back up. Okay. Okay, Stratus, what do you got to say here? Let's have a little look at what you're saying. I think that people that pay $9.99 for Elementor will use support for everything instead of searching for 55 minutes about the problem, so support will be full again. I think you can look at it in one of two ways. If you are an agency, let's just say, and you are going for the agency plan with 1,000 licenses for $999, I would hazard a guess that you're probably going to be in that tier where you probably wouldn't need to use support as much because you're not a beginner at using the platform. Yes, if something goes wrong, a technical issue that is beyond what you would normally expect, then you would probably call upon it. But we have to remember that the VIP support is still separate, different people, different department, different everything, to the current premium support. How premium that is, like I say, I have no idea. So you have to bear that in mind. And I would assume there's probably also going to be a lot less out of that 7 million current users of Elementor that are going to go into that $499 to $999 bracket. So I don't think we'll see that much of a change. And I don't think we'll see much of a change for at least the next 6 to 8 months, maybe even longer than that. But like I say, it comes down to we have to wait and see. We have to see what people's experiences are of the VIP support when that comes out and when people start to pay the $499 and the $999 for the next options. What is this? It's hard to charge well in Mexico, to be honest. And you're not the first person that's come in from Mexico into these that says the same thing. I can imagine, like I say, different countries have different economies, different struggles. And this is something that I think, it's very easy for us in the UK and the US and Canada, those kinds of countries to think, well, $200 is nothing. It doesn't matter. I mean, if you can't make that back on 2 projects, 1 project, half a project, a quarter of a project, you're in the wrong business. In some countries, $200 is maybe half a dozen projects, maybe as an entire project. So you'd make no money doing it. We have to bear that in mind. So, when you see some of the people that are commenting on the pricing of various different things, we have to consider that we're not necessarily privy to their financial situations in their country, their business, all those kinds of things. So we do have to kind of bear that in mind. So I can understand why that would be something you'd have to take into consideration. Okay. What else do we have? Oh, Paul, have I mentioned that you refer to your channel about Oxygen tutorials in one of my videos? Hang on. Have I mentioned that I refer to your channel about Oxygen tutorials in one of my videos? Oh, no, you haven't. Thank you very much for doing that. And if anybody's looking for tutorials on Oxygen, please check out Stratos Tutorials on YouTube. And he's done a range of Oxygen tutorials. So pop over to YouTube a little later, do a search for Stratos Tutorials, and give him some love. Watch some videos, learn a bit more about Oxygen, and up your chops on what you can do with that. So thank you very much, Stratos, and thank you very much for mentioning my tutorials in yours as well. Okay, what else do we have? Let's have a little look. Bear with me. Wasim, have I seen Daryl's video on this topic? No, to be honest, I haven't looked at any of the other YouTubers that have put content about this up where they put the videos up the day that the price thing was announced. I kind of prefer to do this kind of thing and not color my opinions on what I think by anybody else's thoughts with regards to the price changes, the support changes, all those kinds of things. These are my opinions based upon my conversations, my experience. So no, I haven't checked anybody else's videos out. I can imagine looking at the thumbnails, there's going to be some outrage and possibly, I don't know, who knows. let me know what they said in those, and if it's the same kind of thing that I'm saying or whether it's completely different, let me know. Okay. Let's have a little look. That's the problem. Elementor doesn't know who users are clients. The people that use page builders are not web development agencies and more freelance or small studios. You could well be right. Yeah, you could well be right that different, when you look at the agency, when you look at the sort of pricing they talk about, targeting a different market, you could be right that that market generally isn't using page builders like Elementor. But I would have thought, or I would hope at least, that Elementor have done their research to find out if there's a market there to go into. Because if not, they would have shot themselves in the foot. So I'm assuming they've done their market research to find out if that market is using Elementor, or this is a way into that market with Elementor. I don't know. Who knows? Jamie, really great tutorial on glass morphism, by the way. Thank you very much. I'm glad you enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun to do. And like I say, it was suggested to me, and I've been looking at it for a little while, so it was great to sort of have a little play about. And I will show you, before we finish up this video, providing I remember, what the tutorial that I'll be doing on glass morphism alongside Jet Engine and the profile builder, what that looks like and how it kind of works. Still in progress at the moment, but it'll give you an idea of what it looks like. Okay. Let's have a look. What else do we have? I would love to hear more details on what VIP support includes, wiki design. I believe that the main selling point of the VIP support is that you get access to it in 30 minutes. And I'm assuming you get access to potentially more knowledgeable people. But I don't know. Like I say, none of these details were kind of given over to me in my conversation with those guys from Elementor early in the week. Okay. Let's have a little look. Paul, have you discussed with LE people for product improvement with the extra money they will get? I wish I had any kind of sway on anything that they do, Yanis, to be honest. I've given a couple of ideas over, a couple of different suggestions and things that I've got to put in writing, but whether any of those come to any kind of fruition, whether they even land on ears that are open to listen to what I'd have to say, I don't know. I don't think I've got any real clout when it comes to companies like Elementor or anything like that. Wish I did, but I don't think I do. Okay. Let's have a little look. Who else do we have? Okay. Vinay, I hope I said that right. This price change affects designers and developers from developing countries a lot. The petty profit margins they can make are the reasons why they find ways of getting parodied Elementor copies. Again, like I say, you're probably right on that front. When you're talking about an expensive product, although I do kind of think they're obviously paying something for the nulled version of it, the GPL version. I mean, let's just say it's $10. I don't know exactly if that is the case. I mean, what is the price on the basic Elementor license at the moment? I believe it's $29. Is it $29 or $30? Let me just have a little look. You kind of have to ask yourself, is it worth going down that route when you literally have no support? Okay, $49. Well, no. Yeah, $49. Oh, okay. Yeah, $49 is a bit more expensive. My bad. I thought it was $39, something like that. Yeah. Yeah, maybe you're right on that one. Like I say, it doesn't make it right, doesn't make it justified, but I could understand why they would do it. Doesn't mean say I agree with it. So, okay. Sunriser. Oxygen is a one-time lifetime purchase. Agency, $169. Only if you lock it in now and start us, I'm sure you can probably hop in here and confirm or tell me I'm talking rubbish. Only until the new version, which I think, is it 3.7, is released. I think it's 3.7 or maybe 3.8, but whatever the next version is. When that's released, you will no longer have free access to everything that kind of comes out. You will have access to the core Oxygen, but there's certain things after that you'd have to pay for. Whereas if you lock that pricing in now, you lock in the price you pay for lifetime, I believe. So start, if you like to sort of let me know. Agency still say the same price after 3.7. The extra elements will be the separate feature. Okay, yeah, there we go. So You still have agency access, but then there's extra things that you wouldn't have as part of it. I mean, out of curiosity, Stardust, what exactly are those extra features? I haven't looked into it too deeply. Yeah. Hope that answered the question anyway. Okay, so there's one more thing I want to bring up, and then we'll have a little bit of a Q&A for 10 minutes, as I'm conscious of the time. I don't want to keep everybody from what they're doing. Oh, two things, actually. Before we go any further, Crocoblock. I don't think I've done a thing on this one. Crocoblock, in case you haven't noticed, I think the same date or around the same date, they will be changing their pricing structure as well. But what they're doing is, currently you have like different plans, and it's kind of like a bit like Adobe. You have like an e-commerce plan, like a dynamic plan or something like that. And in there you have a set block of different plugins out of the entire suite. Obviously you have the unlimited full suite of everything. But what they're bringing in is a sort of, let's just call it an all-you-can-eat buffet kind of style. But what you can do is you can literally go through and choose the different plugins you want out of the Crocoblock suite, and that will then give you a price for the annual charge for one site or unlimited sites, which means that you can just tailor make it to either an individual project or how you work as a designer, web designer, whatever you want to kind of call yourself. So I think this is a great way of doing it, and I know it's something that people have talked about in the past. So it's great again to hear that they're listening to what's going on. So I think it's really good that you can at least pick and choose what you want and not have almost everything. I mean, you miss a couple of things out which you need, or you go for everything plan. So that's cool. I'm glad to hear that. So that's something that I think is good. And again, there's a link on the Facebook group, on my Facebook group, if you want to take a look at that. You can find that at wptuts.co.uk/Facebook. Okay, I'm going to go back to Vinay. What do you think makes Divi, if at all, a comparatively bad option? I don't think it's a bad option. I think it's... I don't really use Divi that much, and I find it kind of slightly counterintuitive, always having to hit save when I make a change. That just drives the devil into me. But I mean, there's a massive market for Divi. There's a massive user base for Divi. Their pricing seems to work really well for them. If you want to go for lifetime, you can pay whatever the one-off fee is for lifetime, or you can pay an annual subscription. And that model seems to be working really, really well for them. I'm just not a Divi user, so I'm not going to badmouth Divi because I don't know enough about it to say whether it's good or bad, whether it's a good choice or a bad choice or the wrong choice. So, again, if you jump in on a lifetime deal with something like Divi, you're getting a good deal if you want to use that platform moving forward. And, once you've recouped that cost of buying that lifetime license, everything else becomes profit. So there's nothing wrong with that. It's a good system. It's up to you how you want to do things. If you want to use Elementor, or you want to use Divi or Brizzy or Beaver Builder or anything others, whatever works great for you, go for that one. Okay. Yeah, sorry. Okay, so thing I want to sort of cover last of all, and this is totally off topic to what we're talking about so far, is my course, my client lifecycle course. Now, I've talked about this quite a few times, and if you don't know what it is, it's basically going to be a course about the entire life cycle when working with a client, from the initial contact to handing over the project at the end to maybe going into maintenance plans if that's something you want to go into. This is something that I'll be offering an early adopter option, and this is only going to be open to a set number of people and for a small amount of time. And what it means is you'll come in on the ground level, so you'll come in at a massively reduced price. You'll have access to the first 2 modules, and then every 4 to 6 weeks new modules will be added into that, and that then is going to give you access to those at that reduced rate. You'll have lifetime access to it. You'll also have access to dedicated way of discussing the course, what you like about it, what you don't like about it, what you think could be improved. You'll get feedback and help shape that course going forward, and like I say, for a big discount in price. So if you want to sign up to be notified as soon as the doors are open for that early adopter, and like I say, it's only going to be open for a couple of days, and it's only going to be open for a limited number of people, you can head over to the link you can see on screen there, wptuts.co.uk/sign up, pop in your name and your email address, hit sign up, and then you'll be on the list to be notified as soon as that becomes available. So if this interests you, something you're interested in, head over there, sign up, and I'll let you know as soon as it's available. Okay, just want to let you know about that because a lot of people have been asking me about it, if it's going to happen, when it's going to happen, and what the situation is with it. Okay, so let's go back. Jamie, let me just pull that back up again. So, my first project on Divi recouped my costs for the lifetime license. And this is the thing, I mean, unless you're spending thousands, you should be able to recoup the costs in one project for most things that you need, and especially if you can grab a lifetime deal. And also, always keep an eye out on, AppSumo for good deals and things like that. It's always good. Okay, sorry. Stratos, if you lose more weight, you'll have to buy t-shirts all over again for a smaller size. I'm already doing that. Yeah, these are all new ones, and yes, I am definitely going through clothes a little bit too quick. Okay, Matt. Oops, sorry, I went out and I went out. That's no problem at all, Matt. You can always watch a replay if you want to catch up on what we've covered. But thank you for joining in it anyway, so it's good to see you. Wanted to know if you were doing any more on Oxygen, and if so, something with ACF and your possible dashboard you made in Elementor. Yes, I am going to be doing more stuff on Oxygen. Hopefully next week I'm going to be doing a video that'll be my first look on using Oxygen and WooCommerce to see how that works. And yes, I will be taking a look at how viable it is to take and create something like the front end dashboard. I've been speaking to Shabti on and off, who's the developer behind the ACF Front End Forms Pro and the various different versions of that. And he's already expressing an interest in creating the plugin for Oxygen, which would mean that hopefully we'll be able to do pretty much exactly the same as I've done in Elementor, and also, in Elementor, inside Oxygen itself, which I think would be absolutely awesome. So it is something I'll be looking into, and as I get more used to Oxygen, then I will hopefully expand what I show you inside ACF and things like that. Because I don't think there's any point in me reinventing the wheel when it comes to what's already been covered. I mean, there's tons of great tutorials out there on Oxygen. Like I say, check out Stratos tutorials as well. So I don't think I need to go back and reinvent the wheel. So I think I would rather focus a big part of what I do on both WooCommerce and dynamic content, because they're the two things that the channel kind of focuses on to a larger extent anyway. Stardust, you'll be disappointed on Woo and Oxygen. I've kind of heard a lot of things about that, so it would be a shame if that is the case. But look, at the end of the day, I'm interested in seeing what kind of goes on there. And again, if we can shine a light on what you can do with it, and it helps the developers over at Oxygen put a little bit of time and effort into expanding what you can do with WooCommerce, maybe that would be a good thing. I don't know. So I think it's all good press, sort of like showing what can be done. Okay, no cart icon for the menu, no filter integration options, and some other bugs. Okay, maybe I won't do it next week then. We'll see. Matt, Swiss knife and hydrogen really improve the UI. Hydrogen is something I need to look into. And if anybody doesn't know, these are add-ons for Oxygen that open up some extra options in there. Like say, hydrogen, I believe is to fill in some of the shortcomings of what you have inside the Oxygen UI and so on. So thanks, Matt. I'll take a little look at those and have a little play about and see if I can test those out and see what they're like. Okay, I'm not too sure what this is. Oxygen doesn't provide affiliate links. No, Oxygen doesn't have anything to do with affiliates. They did a couple of years ago, I think, for version 2, but I think Lewis decided that he didn't want to support that whole side of affiliate side of things and removed it. But, you know, still a decent product regardless of... Oh, sorry. I think I've probably answered your question as well then, Richard. No, there's no affiliate or anything. I don't get any kickbacks at all from doing anything to do with Oxygen. I just do it because it's interesting. But thank you for thinking of me. Okay. What else do we have? What do you think about the idea of productizing web design services, like offering websites with fixed scope, fixed prices? I don't think there's anything wrong with that as long as you are making money on it. You know, it all depends how you want to package it up. If you want to productize it, whether you want to sort of say that you pay, I don't know, let's just say $200 for the site, and that gives you 5 pages, including a homepage and a contact page. And then what you make your money on is that residual income for the hosting, the domain registrations, the SSL certificates, those kinds of things. Then nothing wrong with that. You know, that is a numbers game because, you know, if you've got 10 sites on there, you've got to cover your development costs. But when you've got 1,000 sites on there, then suddenly it changes the whole residual income, and then you start to make better profits. But there's nothing wrong with productizing. It's something I've looked at in the past. I think I talked about with my ex-business partner way back. I didn't like the model too much because it relies upon getting a lot of numbers in through the doors, or you kind of really suffer from the fact that you're charging so little. And then if you get next to nobody coming in, you kind of have to ask yourself, is it worth it? Okay. Let's have a look. So, Chris S. Elementor Gap is missing in their plans. From 25 to 100 is a big jump. Adding the ability to purchase 25 or 50 websites. Yeah, I don't disagree with you there. I mean, there's always been a bit of a disparity there between one site and 3 sites, and like $99 for 3 sites, and then $199 for 1,000, or as it was, unlimited. Kind of seems a bit crazy. So I suppose the 25 kind of makes a little bit more sense. But I do agree, they could do with something in between that sort of $200 and $500 range. Yeah, I don't disagree that there's definitely logic in that. What have I got? Sorry, Christopher. I need to press more buttons. Too many buttons going on. Right, let's have a little look. Sorry, let's try this. Okay, things are playing silly swords now. Christopher, you're involved with Crock-a-Block more. To be honest, I prefer it to be leaner. Elementor does seem a bit too bloated for certain projects. I don't know if that was to me or someone else, so I'll just bypass on that one. Okay, I'm going to do a couple more questions, and then we're going to call it an evening. So, what else do we have? Charlie, what was the link to your course sign up? Hopefully you can see it on screen now. It's wptuts.co.uk/sign up. So just hop over there, and like I say, just drop your name and your email address in. And even if you're already signed up to my mailing list, it'll just add you into that group. So you won't get, I don't know, you shouldn't get like an email saying, do you want to confirm? Because you've already opted into my mailing list anyway. So that should be okay. Anthony T. For some reason, I can't get rid of this thing. Okay. Do you think it's possible to create a peer-to-peer donation platform like Kickstarter, but all within Elementor or Crock-a-Block tools? Don't want to use an extra plugin. I've never looked at the logistics of being able to work with a tool like Kickstarter to be able to build something like that. So I wouldn't really know how easy or how difficult that would actually be. But I'd sort of, I'd imagine you could probably do it, but whether it would be easy to do is a different sort of thing altogether. You could possibly do it. You could probably do it, but I wouldn't want to try it. I think it would be a big old project to take on board to build something similar to that. That would be my kind of thought process on it anyway. Okay. Okay, what else do we have? Steve Pro already signed up. Have to go sign up again. Steve, yes, you do, because it'll just dump you onto the different group. So you'll still get anything else you're signed up for, but you'll also be added into this new group. So you won't have to confirm anything. Just drop your name in, drop your email address in, and it'll just add you into that group. And that's all you have to do. I hope that helps anyway. Okay. How much was Pro before the raise? Pro before the raise, it's still the same price as it is now. It's $49 for 1, $99 for 3, $199 for 1,000, and that won't change until the 9th of March. And then you'll still have those prices, but you'll have 1 license for $49, 3 licenses for $99, 25 licenses for $199 instead of 1,000 you get now. Then the $499 will give you 100 licenses, and the $999 or the $999 will give you the 1,000 licenses. Hope that helps anyway. That's Giraffe. Hope I said that right. Okay, so any more questions for me? And okay, quickly, Josh, signed up, thanks. When will the course be available? The first 2, well, I've got the first 2 sections done. They're just going into editing, which means that I'll be opening up the sign up probably in the next week or so. And then that will be available. You'll have more details. So check out, if you signed up, check out the email that gets sent out, and that'll tell you, give you an update exactly how it all works. and how you'll be notified. And like I say, it's only going to be limited places and only for a limited couple of days, and it'll be closed off then until it actually releases. What about your renewals? $199 for 1,000 going to stay if you buy before the 9th of March? Yes, Mohit, that is exactly what's going to happen. You'll retain exactly what you pay for right now up until the 9th of March. And beyond that, you'll carry on paying what you currently pay. You won't pay the higher rate for the 1,000 sites or be dropped down to 25 sites. Vinay again. Do you think providing web design services only in a certain niche enables you to make more money than you will otherwise? Potentially. It really does depend upon your market. It depends upon where you are. It depends what niche you decide to choose to go into. If you have specific types of businesses in an area, like for example, for me, there's lots of businesses close to me where my business used to be based that are all to do with tourism. So it's accommodation-based businesses, you know, bed and breakfasts, hotels, things like that. If I wanted to focus, that's what I would focus on, because there's an abundance of businesses that need those kinds of services. If you're in an area with a lot of restaurants, it's good to be known as the specialist that can work in that particular area. That's potentially going to make you more money. But there's no point in niching down if you niche down on something that there's no demand for it, or there's just not many businesses in your area that you want to service that are in that side of things. Hope that helps anyway. Do a paid course on Gutenberg. WordPress will squeeze everyone out soon. Very probably. Okay, Stardust tutorials. Have a good evening, and I hope you get a few more subscribers from people taking a look over from this live stream. Have a good evening. Thank you for clarifying. My pleasure. No problem at all. If you have a good niche, you can become a specialist. Dax Peggles. Exactly. If you've got a niche and you've got a market there for that niche, there's definitely an opportunity to make good money from doing that. But like I say, you have to have that market there. Vinay, no problem at all. I hope that helps. Okay. Any course on coding, PHP, HTML in WordPress? I've done it, not from me. I'm not the biggest coder, to be honest. It's not my wheelhouse. I'd rather stay inside the things that I can do as opposed to things that I'm not that good at. So when it comes to the coding side of things, I'm okay, but it wouldn't be something that I want to jump up and down. But on the flip side, there are going to be more tutorials on CSS, because I think the last couple of tutorials I've done on that, they've been quite good fun to do. And speaking of which, before I wrap this up, there's one more thing I just want to quickly show you, and that is what the next tutorial that you're going to see is going to look like, which is going to be the custom dashboard. So I'm just going to pop you over to my other screen. There we go. So hopefully you can see my screen okay. And this is encompassing two different aspects. So this is using Jet Engine and the profile builder, which if you see in the recent video I released for Crockablock themselves, which I think was either today or yesterday. Yesterday it was released. That covers the basics of how you set up the profile builder. In other words, it's not just a profile, just call it the front end forms, profile, options, editor, those kinds of things. You can do a lot more. I think profile builder was not the best name for it. So this is what I'm going to show you how to build, but how to integrate it into a custom design. And I'm going to show you how to build all the design, every aspect of this, the custom CSS, the design layouts, all the things that I've done, why I've done certain things and how I've done them. And we're going to combine some of the design elements, doing like the glass morphism alongside the more customized drop shadows, in conjunction with Jet Engine to create something similar to this. So this is kind of what you have. So when you log in, this would be all of the posts that you have. And if you've seen any of my front end tutorials, you'll know the kind of thing I'm doing. And this is just the prototype work in progress. But you've got the option then, you'll have quick options down the left-hand side. So you can create a new post, you can create a new page, possibly. You have to look into that. You can edit your user profile. You'll have the same kinds of things across the top. There's some nice subtle little sort of visual effects. You can easily come in, you'll have pagination and everything on here. You can edit a post, so you can come in and take a look, and then you can edit this. And the only thing that I'm really annoyed at is the fact that this WYSIWYG editor, you can't really style it because that's controlled by your browser, which is really frustrating. So that's unfortunate, but there's nothing much I can do about that right now without really getting stuck in and messing up with lots of different kinds of coding things. So this is the kind of thing we're going to be looking at creating. We can add new posts in there. We can easily come in and edit your user settings, so your username, your profile, those kinds of things. And I'll show you how you'll do all of this. And this is just something that I think will be a bit of fun. We'll take a look at how to create something like this and how we can take the tools that we've been using and make them into something that's a bit more unique. The tutorial I did for CrocodBlock shows the functionality, but not so much the design. This is where I want to combine the two of these things to show you how you could take those tools and you could build a really cool looking design that you can make then as part of your client process, those kinds of things. So hopefully that'll be interesting. Okay, yeah, glass morphism really reminds me of the Windows Vista theme. Your dashboard does look nice though. If you use, I do agree there's certain aspects that are very, very akin to that. But if you use a Mac and you use Big Sur, there's a lot of options, or there's a lot of layout sort of styling that's part of what I've done with the glass morphism. And again, you can take the certain aspects of this and just run with it and do whatever you want with it. You know, just use it as a, okay, I don't like the design, but I like the fact that I can take those elements and this is how you can put them together to combine something to be more unique, and then redo the design yourself. Lots of ways you can do it. Plus, it's also going to harness, you know, some of the things that we can do by using global styling and things like that inside Elementor. So it should be a good example of how you can combine all these different aspects of the tools that we're going to use to create something a little bit more unique than just grabbing someone else's theme and just plonking everything in there and going, there you go. To me, it's more of a real world way of taking those tools and integrating them into something that is a design as opposed to just a bunch of functionality. Anyway, Bitcoin by Elementor, wouldn't that be fun? Okay, so I'm going to kind of call it a day there. Hopefully tonight's live stream has been interesting. Tonight's live stream has been allowing us to have a little conversation about the good, the bad, how things are going to affect things moving on, as well as take a look at some of the other things that you can kind of do. So I want to say a quick thank you very much for everybody for joining me as always. It's been an absolute pleasure. The next one will be in 2 weeks' time. So that's going to be, I believe, the 25th of February. So keep an eye on the Facebook group, keep an eye on the channel, and there will be a new live stream in 2 weeks' time. So thank you very much for everybody for getting involved tonight. Thank you very much, Carl, for being here as always. Great to have you here. I hope you have a fantastic evening, and I'll be around in the chat now for the next couple of minutes. So thank you very much for joining me, and I will catch up with you really, really soon.